I tell you what's not very good for your stress levels, and that's waking up on the morning when you're supposed to be recording the latest episode in a YouTube series to find out that the PC that you store everything on has died. Honestly, it's a miracle that I've got this episode out at all. Hello everybody, welcome to the Re-Review, the series where I get to replay and reassess games from my favourite gaming era. I'm Brian, also known as UK Jen Zoidberg, and before I get started on this latest episode, I just want to pause for a moment and say a massive thank you to everybody out there who's watching. This month, our little YouTube channel broke through the 5,000 subscribers barrier, and I'm totally blown away by that, especially considering this time last year we were barely at 4,000. This series has always been somewhere where I can talk about the things that I like and I'm passionate about, and it's so humbling to know that there are so many people out there who enjoy it too. The Amiga has always been something very close to my heart, and as long as there are people out there to listen, I'm going to keep talking about it. For this latest episode, I'm going to be delving into what the critics said about action platformer Turrican, which was released by Rainbow Arts and developed by Factor 5 back in 1990. And before we move on to anything else, just a quick word about memberships. Hey, has anybody told you about the VIP memberships that we do right here on the channel? Not only will you get early access to most of the videos that we post, you'll also get exclusive access to full reruns of any live streams that we do, plus exclusive membership content. You'll even get one of these little badges that you can put on your name whenever you comment on anything, just to show people how long you've been a member for. If that sounds like something that might be of interest to you, it's only £1.99 a month, and you can find full details of how you can become a member in the video description, or just click the link on screen right now. You'll even get to help us choose what games we cover in future episodes of both the Re-Review and Retro Game Super Leagues, so why not check it out? For now though, let's get back to the video. Factor 5 were founded in 1987 by Julian Egbrecht and 4 former employees of Rainbow Arts. Based in Cologne in Germany, they worked in partnership with that publisher to produce a number of memorable games for the Amiga. Like so many of their contemporaries, they sprang up from the thriving demo scene, and when they produced their first game, the Commodore 64 shooter Catechis, it received praise for its technical performance. It also drew some unwanted attention from Activision, who held the rights to produce home versions of IREM's R-Type. Activision threatened to sue over how similar the two games were, but in order to keep Catechis on sale, a deal was eventually struck that saw Factor 5 produce the Amiga conversion themselves. Egbrecht believes that this is because Activision didn't have any programmers themselves, but also that the opportunity was a dream come true. The result is widely regarded as one of the best arcade conversions for the Amiga. Their next game was to become their calling card. It was influenced by both Metroid and Contra, although designer Manfred Trenz also cited Data East's Psychonix Oscar as a major influence, as it was his favourite arcade game at the time. I'd honestly never heard of that game before researching this episode, so obviously now I'm going to have to seek it out and play it as soon as possible. Turrican, a title literally picked out of the phone book according to Trenz, was initially released for the Commodore 64, with conversions following for other systems soon after. Trenz was only directly involved with the Amiga and NES versions of the game, with both the Spectrum and Amstrad conversions being handled by Probe Software. Turrican 2 The Final Fight would arrive just 1 year later, and was built almost entirely from scratch, with only the scrolling routines being kept from the original. Trenz received high praise for managing to do so much with the Commodore 64's limited power, and the conversion to the Amiga was such a hit that the game would receive console conversions soon after. Both Super Turrican and Mega Turrican are different enough to each other and to Turrican 2 that they can be considered their own games. Mega Turrican would eventually be reworked as Turrican 3 for the Amiga in 1993, where it was published in the UK by Renegade. Before that though, they worked alongside Hudson Soft, producing the excellent Amiga conversion of their PC Engine hit PC Kid, although it was retitled BC Kid. As Factor 5's reputation grew, so too did the size of the projects that they worked on. For LucasArts, they would produce Indiana Jones's Greatest Adventures for the Super Nintendo, before going on to create the Star Wars Rogue Squadron series for N64, PC and GameCube. In 2007 they would work alongside Sony Computer Entertainment for their biggest game yet, the PlayStation 3 exclusive Lair. Released during the first year of the PS3's lifespan, this was a game that ultimately suffered from having enforced motion controls designed to show off the 6-axis controller. It did, however, feature a soundtrack composed by John Debney, who had worked on movies such as I Know What You Did Last Summer and Spy Kids, which went on to be nominated for multiple awards. The Turrican series would return in 2021 with the release of Turrican Flashback for PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch. This compilation that was put together for the series' 30th anniversary would feature the first 2 Amiga games bundled together with the SNES and Mega Drive versions. Today you can even play a reworked score attack version of Super Turrican on Antstream, if you want to be challenging me for a score, that is. Now let's check out what the reviews said about Turrican on its original release. The lineup of games magazines in the UK was a little bit different to what we're used to in this series when Turrican first released in 1990, with both Amiga Power and Games X not releasing their first issue until 1991. The Amiga market itself was also in its infancy at the time, but that doesn't mean that there weren't a number of reviews for me to look at. The exclusive first review would appear in Newsfield's multi-format magazine The Games Machine, which reviewed both the Commodore 64 and Amiga versions simultaneously, as well as featuring the game's artwork on the cover. It concluded that it was a Commodore 64 classic, with the Amiga version not being a great improvement, but still being the best pure arcade blast around. It scored 92%. The highest score was in the long-running Commodore 64 magazine Zap 64, which had just started to cover Amiga games. As was normal for the magazine, it featured the opinions of 3 reviewers simultaneously, who between them decided that the game was worthy of a score of 94%. For the lowest score that it received, you would have to turn to the pages of Amiga Action magazine, where it would seem that there was a disagreement between the 3 reviewers who contributed their opinions. Steve White would say that it was superb, whereas Doug Johns claimed that there was something missing to make it truly enjoyable. It scored 83%, with the graphics and sound earning 86% and 76% respectively. Despite there being no review, Amiga Power did include it in their first ever Top 100 Games of All Time, where it placed at number 88. From 8 reviews, the average score was 89.9%. So let's play it again to see what I would score it today. It's time for the playtest.
So, as the voice just announced, welcome to Turrican. It's a bit weird going back to playing the original after playing the sequel so many times, but here we go. Always remember that there is an extra life hidden way up there. One thing that I do miss playing this on the A500 Mini is the fact that I used to be able to play this with an auto fire when I played it with the ZipZip, which I can't do right now. If you are able to play this game with an auto fire, add a little extra to the overall score that I will end up giving this. I think one of those games that an auto fire definitely benefits. Must say, the first few times I played this, I didn't really know what half the power-ups were that I was picking up. But that flamethrower thingy is really, really good. I mean, not quite as good as what you got in the follow-up, obviously. But being able to just hold down the fire button and swing this round to take out various enemies around you was a really excellent touch, and one of the most memorable things about this series in general. That's one of the things that made it something that would instantly grab you. As nice and powerful as this weapon is, I would prefer to have the that's the one I want. I would prefer to have the split fire. There we go. Covers much more area, far more useful. Not exactly the most difficult end of level boss in the world, but that's only because I had so much power in the flamethrower, or the beam weapon, as it's called. But I think this game stands as a testament to quality pixel art. This game came out in 1990 and it still looks as good now as it did then. Probably the only thing missing really is any arrows telling you where you're supposed to be going, but I don't think that's too much of a problem. Some of the platforming sections like this are a little bit of a pain. Generally, the exit to any levels is in the bottom right-hand corner, certainly on these early stages anyway. So as long as you're always trying to bear that in mind with where you drive, where you're running. So this is a level where if you did keep running all the way to the right, you would eventually reach a wall where you couldn't go any further. So you do actually have to drop down to find the way to the exit. In general, it is very, very difficult to go the wrong way, though. It's amazing that even with this game setting visual and audio standards in 1990, that not that many games actually followed suit. Because when you consider how many Amiga games there are out there that force you to choose between music or sound effects, and here's a game that quite happily has both and works brilliantly, and not only that, but has a different tune for every level. These jumps that I'm attempting to do here are one of the reasons why I feel like console versions of this game never really worked, because playing with a joypad is nowhere near as responsive as a joystick for those kind of things. Yeah, I'd say that the only real advantage that console versions had was the fact that you had extra buttons so that you could fire off your smart bombs and things. So once you get to the second world and you start getting to these indoor sections, the level design does actually get even tighter than before. I think in many ways the graphics are a lot better and start to get better as you get further through the game as well. Because this is what you start to get on these levels as well, is all these little traps that you have to try and avoid. It does seem like there is generally only one way to go. As soon as the screen turns black here, they should get to the next level boss. Here we go. Go on, kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it, kill it. Got it. Okay, so there was no reason to go that way other than a few diamonds to pick up. There's definitely a substantial challenge in this game. It's not something you're going to complete in just a few short hours, like some games. That really could have done with an arrow pointing downwards to tell you that the exit was there. And the music starts to sound a little bit like the music from X Out. Sorry, Cross Out. Let's give it its proper name. So neat little graphical touches there. It's like completely unnecessary to have that splash there, but it makes all the difference. It just looks really nice. Just reminds you that this has clearly been made by people who knew what they were doing. Oh, no, 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 oh, no. Please tell me there's going to be some more health coming up. No, that's the exit. Oh, my. Is this going to kill it? Please tell me it is. That's getting that's getting dangerously close. Oh, game over. Well, I suppose that's as good a place as any to end the playtest. Let's get on to the final summary and give the game a score.
Reviewing the first game that launched a long-running and well-known series is actually quite a tricky prospect, so let's get the obvious point out the way straight away. Turrican may have provided the template for a much better sequel, but as far as I'm concerned, that doesn't diminish the quality of this game in any way. It looks just as good today as it did the first time I played it, thanks to the beautiful clean pixel art. There's lots of little touches throughout, such as the fantastic animation of the player character and the way that the background colour changes to signify your altitude on the level. The only real issue that I had with the graphics is that you are occasionally required to jump blindly in the hope that there's going to be something safe to land on. As for the level design, I think it's the one area that wasn't improved, and it's actually better here than it was in the sequel. Levels are huge and expansive, but I never found myself getting completely lost. If I did find myself running into a dead end, it was never too far to backtrack so that I could go the right way instead. Also, any exploration is usually rewarded with some extra lives or collectibles. One person who I've not mentioned in this video yet is composer Chris Hulsbeck. The selection of tunes that accompany the action, and have been playing in the background of this video, are once again fantastic, and they elevate the game from being merely a good, solid shooter to something that's very easy to recommend. In the action platform Super League, which is probably the one that has more essential and recommended titles than any other, Turrican sits just inside the top 10. There will be a link to the full video of that one in the video description below. It's only really the fact that I think the sequel is better that stops it from being any higher. It is, however, better than the third game in my opinion, and that's why I'm going to be giving it 8 out of 10. Thank you for watching this episode of the Roo Review. If you played Turrican back in the day and this brought back some memories, why not share those in the comments? Any opinions expressed in this video are entirely mine and not those of the UK Gaming Network team, and remember, it's perfectly fine if you disagree. There's a new episode in this series every 2 weeks, so please make sure you come back to see the next one, although I am actually trying to still work out what game I'm going to be covering. I am also already working on a special Christmas episode for December, so make sure you check that one out as well. If there are any games that you'd like to see me cover in future episodes, then you can email those suggestions to us to reviews@ukgamingnetwork.com. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to give us a like and subscribe to show your appreciation for what we do. And if this is your first episode, then please click the link on screen right now for 60 more just like it. I'll also give you the link to the Retro Game Super Leagues playlist so that you can check those out as well. Until next time, happy retro gaming, bye for now.